Hi, my name is Amira Abbas, and I'm a researcher at the IBM team in Zurich, in Switzerland. In this series, we talk to really interesting researchers in quantum computing doing very cool work. Welcome to SuperPosition. This show is really exciting and important to me for two reasons. So one, it gave me a reason to shower before 3 p.m. And two, thank you for laughing, Hannah. It was a little bit delayed, but I one. Okay. And two is also really important because I get to talk to amazing people like, drumroll, Hannah Sim. And Hannah is the first guest today. And before she introduces herself and tells us a little bit about her background, I want to highlight some stuff that I know she's too modest to kind of talk about. So I was stalking Hannah online for the last week and found out that she has won so many awards and accolades and fellowships and scholarships for physics and chemistry and all her work. And I encourage you to Google her, like she's really impressive. Some of these awards are like the Beckman Scholarship, the Phyllis J. Fleming Prize. If I'm wrong, please, Hannah, correct me. She's also won the Horton Hallowell Graduate Fellowship. And I think the coolest one is she's Department of Energy Computational Science Graduate Fellow. So this is really, really prestigious PhD fellowship to get. So, and also for those of you who know Alan Asparu Guzik's group, Hannah is part of that as well. And they are known for like really, really good research in quantum computing, and amazing people like Hannah are part of it. So yeah, without further ado, Hannah Sim, over to you. Tell us about yourself and, how did you get into quantum computing?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Hannah, but I also go by Sukin in papers as well. But, most people call me Hannah. I'm currently a fourth year graduate student in Professor Alana Spru-Guzik's group. He was formerly at Harvard University, but now he's based in University of Toronto and is an affiliate of the Vector Institute. So I guess in terms of how I got into quantum computing, I actually didn't know anything about quantum computing until maybe the end of my junior year in college, where I was just sitting around in a library and looking at some popular science articles because I was kind of bored while studying for midterms or something. And then I came across an article that described the potential applications of this new field called quantum computing. So I think I was really drawn into this article and I was like, I want to know more about it. So I started looking up online resources and kind of fortunately, it's a little weird, but that's also around the time where I met Alon, my advisor, at a scientific conference. And then he was telling me about his research and I was really interested in it. So I started reading up on his research and started getting in touch with him and his group to find out more about it. And eventually, a couple of years later, I landed in his group. And that's where I started kind of learning from older postdocs and grad students and trying to help out in different quantum computing projects.
But you have a little bit of a different background, right? I mean, you started in your undergraduate degree in chemistry and then you transitioned to physics, but then you also had a little bit of mathematics and computer science, and you worked in multiple labs. Was this in chemistry as well? How did this happen? And I think you also interned at Zapata, the quantum computing startup.
Yeah, so I guess this actually goes back to then high school because I was taking a lot of these chemistry courses, and then I think this was the senior year of my high school where I was kind of reading the textbook, which is pretty rare. Sometimes I would skip reading some textbooks because I would fall asleep. But there was one particular passage that was on this field called computational chemistry, just kind of this idea of integrating ideas from chemistry as well as kind of applying computational methods in order to study chemistry. And for me, that sounded super interesting. So I kind of told myself, hey, like when I'm in college, I really want to try doing research in this field called computational chemistry. So when I got to college, I was only looking for these computational labs. And then I found my undergrad advisor, Donald E. Elmore. at Wellesley College, and he does a lot of research studying antimicrobial peptides. So I wasn't so knowledgeable in maybe like the biophysical sides of things or the more biological aspects of his research, but I was really interested in using both computational and experimental methods in order to study certain types of antimicrobial peptides. So that was my undergraduate thesis. But then I think in terms of, I mentioned that I started off as a chemistry major, but I think around 2 years into my college, I kind of had this weird crisis where I'm like, oh, like, is this what I really want to do? And I soon realized that, within chemistry, I really enjoyed studying chemical systems from kind of the physical perspective and also applying computational methods to study these systems. So I think I was like looking up a lot of these computational methods, and I was always trying to implement like simple models that I've seen in papers by myself just for fun. And I guess quantum computing was like the perfect field in that, right? It's highly interdisciplinary. So it kind of combines all of these subjects that I was already interested in and is trying to build something that could really change the world.
So would you say that you had like this aha moment when you find quantum computing? Because I find a lot of researchers in the space have this, right? So me as well, like I was in machine learning and finance and all these other things, but it never really clicked that like the thing I wanted to do was quantum computing until I found it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's weird to say because like, right, like reading a single article shouldn't be that impactful, but it was for me at least because it was so new, but it just like happened to fit all of my interests. So yeah.
Okay, I have a little bit of a strange question to ask you, and I think it's a nice icebreaker. So let's imagine a hypothetical situation where we could inject all these weird non-linearities into quantum mechanics and somehow create a time machine, right? So we magically create a time machine, and you, Hannah, are chosen, or you're the one person that can use this time machine and travel back in time. So, by the way, the reason I asked this question is because when I was stalking you, I also found out that you like history. So, if you could travel back in time to any historical moment or event and change it, which would it be and why?
Oof, yeah, this is a really good question, but in some sense, I always have like, I know it's hypothetical, but I've read so many of these like sci-fi novels where going back in time always screws up something. So I'm like really like afraid to say like what I would change in history because it's gonna kind of all the changes are gonna propagate and maybe like the world today isn't the way that
Kind of
we
like,
expect it to be. Yeah, and like of course like the world that we live in isn't perfect, but it could always go wrong or go in a worse way. So it's hard to like pick one thing that I would change. Hmm. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit more philosophical, but for me, it's like I don't think about like regretting something in the past or like necessarily changing something in the past, but rather like what can I do better today or for tomorrow. So maybe it doesn't quite answer your question, but
no, it's a beautiful answer. I mean, it's much better than when I asked my niece this and she asked me what my response was. I said I would go back 5 years ago and buy Bitcoin. So you're a way better person
no,
than I am.
that's a smarter answer. That's more practical.
Thanks for watching SuperPosition. Please feel free to let us know if you have any topics in mind in the comments or any suggestions about things that you'd like to see in future episodes. And don't forget to subscribe for more quantum and Qiskit content. See you next time!